Your air conditioner has been running since 9 o'clock this morning. It is 2 in the afternoon now. The little screen on your thermostat says 76, but you set it to 68 before lunch, and it has not gotten there, and it is not going to. Walk over to the window on the sunny side of your house and lay the back of your hand flat against the glass. Go ahead. It is hot enough to make you pull your hand away. That pane of glass is letting the sun pour straight into your living room the way light pours into a parked car in a grocery store lot. And every minute it does that, your electric meter is spinning, and somebody in an office tower 1,000 miles away is getting a little bit richer off your discomfort. My name is Kenji. I live in an old farmhouse in the mountains of Japan, a house my great-grandfather raised with his own hands and his neighbor's hands more than 100 years ago. I keep it the old way. I have a small air conditioning unit in one room for the worst nights of the year, and most summers I do not switch it on more than 4 or 5 times. The room where my wife and I sleep, under a roof that the August sun beats on all day long, stays cooler than yours does with $3,000 of machinery fighting for it. I am going to tell you why. I am going to show you the one thing that costs about $4 and stops most of the heat before it ever gets into your house. I am going to show you the trick that goes with it that costs nothing at all but a bucket of water. And then, I am going to tell you the part that should make you a little angry, which is that none of this is a secret. It was written down in my country 700 years ago. You were simply never told, because the people who would have to tell you make their money the other way. Stay with me. By the end of this, you will know exactly what to do this weekend, in your own house, for less than the price of lunch. Let me start with what almost everybody gets wrong, because if you do not understand this part, nothing else will make sense. You think the heat comes into your house through the walls and through the roof. Some of it does. But on a bright summer afternoon, the great flood of heat, the part that turns your living room into an oven by 3 o'clock, comes straight through your windows. Sunlight passes through clear glass like it is not even there. It lands on your floor, your couch, your rug, the dark wood of your coffee table. And the moment it lands, it stops being light and becomes heat. Now here is the cruel little trick of it. That heat, once it has turned from light into warmth, cannot get back out through the glass the way it came in. The glass lets the light in, but it traps the heat. Your sunny window is a one-way door. It is the same thing that happens inside a greenhouse, which is exactly why they make greenhouses out of glass. You are not living in a house on a summer afternoon. You are living in a greenhouse, and you are the tomato. Now think about what most people do about it. They close the curtains. They pull down the blinds. They buy the heavy blackout drapes the store tells them will keep the room cool. And I want you to understand why that barely works at all. By the time your curtain is doing anything, the sunlight has already passed through the glass and turned into heat on the inside of your house. The curtain is standing on the wrong side of the door. The heat is already in the room. Your curtain warms up, and then your curtain radiates that heat right back at you. You have not stopped the heat. You have only given it a place to sit and wait for you. The whole secret, and it is the entire secret, everything else follows from it, is that you must stop the sun on the outside of the glass, not the inside, the outside. You have to catch the light before it ever reaches the window and turns into heat. You can never get back out. The moment you understand that, you understand more about cooling a house than the man who sold you your last set of windows. So here is the $4 fix. In my country, in every old house, and still hanging outside windows and shop fronts all over Japan today, there is a thing we call a sudar. It is a screen woven out of thin reeds or split bamboo with a little string running through it, and you hang it on the outside of the window, in front of the glass, with a gap of a few inches of air between the screen and the pane. That is the whole thing. A roll of reed screen at the hardware store or the garden center, the kind people buy to dress up a fence or shade a porch, costs about $4. $4. I am not rounding down to make a point. That is what it costs. You hang it on the outside, over your sunniest windows, the ones that face the afternoon sun, west and south. You can hang it from a couple of cup hooks screwed into the trim above the window. You can lean a larger one against the wall like a panel. On my house, we hang them from the deep eaves of the roof so they drape down in front of the windows like a curtain made of reeds. It takes 10 minutes and a pair of hooks. And what happens is this. The reeds catch the sunlight out there in the open air before it ever reaches your glass. The little bit of heat that builds up in the screen drifts away on the outside breeze, where it belongs. Instead of being trapped inside your living room, the light never gets the chance to come through your window and turn into a heat you cannot evict. Now you may ask, why a screen made of reeds with gaps in it? Why not just a solid board or a sheet of plywood over the window? Because a solid thing over your window steals your daylight and chokes off your air, and it gets blazing hot itself and bakes against your wall. The reed screen is the clever thing. It blocks the direct beam of the sun. That is the part that carries the heat, but it lets a soft, filtered light come through, so your room is not a cave. And because it is full of little gaps, the breeze passes straight through it. The air keeps moving between the screen and the glass and carries the heat away. You get shade without darkness, and shade without stuffiness. A solid shutter cannot do that. A $4 reed screen does it without even trying. This is the difference between blocking the sun and merely hiding from it. I tested this on my own house years ago before I trusted it, because I am not a man who believes a thing just because my grandfather did it. On a clear afternoon last July, I put a thermometer on the sill of a south window with nothing over it, and another on the sill of an identical window with a reed screen hung outside. Same wall, same hour, same sun. The bare windowsill read over 110 degrees. The shaded sill, 3 feet away, read in the low 80s. 30 degrees, from $4 of dried reeds and a pair of hooks. No machine, no bill. Just the sun stopped where it should be stopped, on the outside. Now I am going to give you the trick that goes with the screen, and this one costs you nothing but a little water and 2 minutes of your evening. In my country, it is called uchimizu, which means, more or less, the throwing of water. On a hot afternoon, my grandmother would take a wooden ladle and a bucket and step out onto the packed earth in front of the house and the stone of the entryway, and she would sprinkle water across the ground in the shade. Not a flood, a scattering, the way you would feed chickens, and the air in front of the house would grow noticeably cooler within a few minutes. People have been doing this in Japanese towns for hundreds of years. On a hot festival day, you will still see whole streets of shopkeepers step out together at dusk and water the pavement in front of their doors. Here is why it works, and it is the oldest cooling there is. Water cannot turn from wet into vapor without taking heat along with it when it goes. You know this in your own skin. When you step out of a pool and a breeze crosses you, you shiver, because the water drying off your body is carrying your heat away into the air. The same thing happens on the ground and on the reed screen, so this is what I want you to do. In the cool of the evening, when the sun has come off the front of the house, take a watering can and wet down the reed screens hanging at your windows, and wet the ground or the pavement or the deck in the shade beneath them. As that water dries through the evening, it pulls heat out of the air right there at your window, and the cooler air drifts in when you open up. The screen does 2 jobs now. By day, it blocks the sun. By evening, wet, it cools the air coming into your house. $4 and a watering can. One honest word, because I will not oversell this the way some people will. The water trick gives you the most cooling where the air is dry. If you live out in the dry country of the West, the thirsty air will pull that water off fast, and you will feel a real, satisfying drop. If you live down in the wet heat of the South, where the air is already half full of water, the cooling from the water will be gentler, a couple of degrees, not a plunge. But the screen itself, the blocking of the sun, that works everywhere the same, dry country or wet. So do not let anyone tell you a sprinkle of water will cool a swamp like a machine. It will not. The screen is the strong part. The water is the bonus. Know what each one is for, and you will not be disappointed. Now I want to lift your eyes up from the window for a minute, because the screen and the water are the quick fix, but they are pieces of something larger that my great-grandfather built into the bones of this house, and that you can borrow even if you live in a modern one. Look at an old Japanese farmhouse, and the first thing you notice is the roof. The eaves, the part of the roof that sticks out past the wall, reach way out, far past the windows, like the wide brim of a straw hat. People think that is just for the look of the thing, or for the rain. It is not. Those deep eaves are aimed at the summer sun. In summer, the sun rides high across the sky at midday, and the long shadow of that overhanging roof falls straight down across the face of the house and shades the windows all through the hottest hours. In winter, the sun stays low and comes in under the eave, slanting deep into the rooms to warm them. The same roof that shades you in August welcomes the sun in January. The builder did not add a machine to fix the summer and a second machine to fix the winter. He shaped the roof once with his eye on the path of the sun and let it do both jobs forever, for free. If your house has any kind of overhang or a porch or a deep eave, you already have a piece of this. If you do not, the reed screen is doing the eave's job for $4. And then there is the part of the old house we call the engawa. It is a wooden walkway, like a narrow porch, that runs along the outside of the rooms, under the deep eave, between the inner rooms and the garden. Folks who do not know better think it is just a hallway, or a place to sit and look at the garden, which it is. But its real work is to be a buffer. It is a strip of shaded, breezy space that takes the beating of the outside heat so the inner rooms do not have to. The sun and the hot air meet the engawa first. The cool of the room stays back behind the sliding screens, protected. It is the same idea as the screen at your window, a layer that catches the heat out in front, before it reaches where you live. A porch on the sunny side of an American house, if you shade it, can do the very same thing. Inside, the old house has almost no solid inner walls, just light sliding screens of wood and paper that you can pull aside in summer until the whole house is one open, flowing room. You open the low screens on the cool, shaded side of the house and the high openings on the far side, and the house breathes. Hot air rises and slips out the high openings, and as it leaves, it pulls cool air in low behind it, and a slow, soft current moves through the whole house on its own, with no fan and no power at all. You can do this in your own house tonight. After the sun is down and the outside air has dropped below the air trapped inside, open a low window on the shaded side of the house and a high window upstairs, or a high transom on the far side. The house will start to draw its own breath. Stand in the hallway around midnight, and you will feel a cool current moving past your ankles. That is your house breathing the way a house is supposed to breathe, the way it cannot breathe when it is sealed up tight and waiting for a machine to do its breathing for it. Now here is the part that should make you a little angry, and I have thought hard about how to say it fairly. Why did nobody tell you any of this? Why does the man who builds houses in your town put up a wall of west-facing glass with no eave over it, no porch, no shade of any kind, and then sell you a bigger air conditioner to fight the oven he just built? Think about who makes money when your house cooks. The power company makes money. Every degree of heat that pours through your bare windows makes your air conditioner strain a little harder and pull a little more power, and you pay for every watt of it, all summer, every summer. The companies that build houses make money building them cheap and fast. A flat wall of glass with no overhang is cheaper and faster to put up than a roof with a proper deep eave, and it photographs well for the listing. The companies that sell the machines make money, and then they make money again on the repair, and again on the bigger unit when the first one dies young from working too hard. There is a whole chain of people who all do a little better when your house cannot cool itself, and not one of them has any reason to mention the $4 reed screen. I do not think there was a meeting. I do not believe in that kind of plot. It is something quieter than a plot, and in a way worse. It is that everybody who profits has simply agreed, without ever saying it out loud, not to bring it up. Nobody has to coordinate. They only have to stay quiet. And they have stayed quiet for 50 years, while the thing they are quiet about hangs in every old window in my country in plain sight. Because in my country, we did write it down. Almost 700 years ago, a man named Yoshida Kenko sat down and wrote a book of his thoughts, and in it, he wrote a line that every builder in Japan still knows. He wrote that a house should be made with the summer in mind, the summer first. He said a house can be lived in through a cold winter no matter how it is built. You can always put on another layer, light another fire. But a house built wrong for the heat is unbearable, and there is nothing you can do about it once it is built. So you build for the summer, and you let the winter take care of itself. 700 years ago. The reed screen, the deep eave, the breathing house, the cup of water on the ground at dusk. These are not my clever ideas. They are the working out of one old sentence that my country never forgot, and yours was never told. I keep these ways for the same reason my great-grandfather did, not because I am afraid of machines. I have a machine, and on the worst night of the year I am glad of it. I keep these ways because they make me able to take care of my own family, without asking anyone's permission, and without waiting for anyone's bill. A man who can keep his house cool with a screen of reeds and a bucket of water does not lie awake in a heat wave doing arithmetic about the electric meter. That is the whole of it. I want to give you one more thing before I let you go, because it is the thing my grandmother taught me, and I did not understand it until I was a grown man. On a hot evening, she would do her uchimizu, sprinkle the water on the ground in front of the house, and then she would go and hang a small glass bell, what we call a furin, in the open window where the evening breeze came through. It is a little glass chime with a strip of paper hanging from the clapper, and when the breeze moves, it rings, a thin, clear sound. As a boy, I thought it was only pretty. But she told me, the bell is not for the ear. The bell is so you will know the wind is moving. When you hear it ring, you know the cool air is coming through, and you open the house and let it pass. When it is silent, you wait. She used a 5-cent bell to read the wind, so she would know the exact moment to open the house to the cool of the evening and not a minute before, when she would only have let the heat in. They had no thermometer and no weather report. They had a piece of glass that sang when the air moved. You can hang one in your window tonight for a couple of dollars, and you will find yourself opening your windows at the right moment without ever once looking at a screen. I want to leave you with the bigger picture, because it is bigger than $4. Heat kills more people in this country every summer than floods and storms put together, and most of them are old, and most of them die indoors, in houses that turned into ovens while the power was out, or the bill was too high to run the machine. We have built ourselves into houses that cannot keep us alive without a machine running and a bill being paid, and then we have mostly forgotten that it was ever any other way. You pay $3,000 a year for permission to be comfortable in your own home, and it never struck most of you as strange because you were born into the arrangement. It does not have to be the only way. It is not even the best way. It is the way that makes someone money. So here is what I want you to do this weekend. Walk around the outside of your house in the afternoon and find the windows the sun is pouring into, the west ones, the south ones. Buy a roll or two of reed screen, about $4 a piece, and hang them on the outside of those windows with a hand's width of air behind them. That is the whole job, and it is the one that matters most. In the cool of the evening, take a watering can and wet down those screens and the ground in the shade below them, and let the water carry the heat away as it dries. After the sun is down and the outside air has dropped, open a low window on the shaded side and a high one on the far side, and let your house draw its own breath through the night. And if you want the last small thing, hang a little glass bell in the window so you will hear the wind come. Less than $10, the whole of it. One afternoon of work, and by next week you will be sitting in a room the afternoon sun never got into, with the screen breathing at the window and the bell going now and then, and the machine switched off and the meter still. Tell me in the comments where you live and which windows are cooking you right now. The west side, the upstairs, the kitchen. And tell me if you hang a screen, because I read every one of these, and I want to hear how it goes for you. Next time I am going to show you the old way we keep a room dry and free of mold through the wet heat of summer, using nothing but a tray, a handful of something you already have in the cupboard, and a sunny windowsill. Until then, stay cool, watch the path of the sun, and remember that the people who built these old houses with their hands knew things we are only just beginning to remember.